Hello everyone! Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most revolutionary fighter aircraft in history, the Messerschmitt Me 262. This was the world's first operational jet fighter, changing the way aerial warfare was conducted. Could this aircraft have altered the course of history if it had been introduced earlier? Let's dive in. The Messerschmitt Me 262 was a revolutionary aircraft that forever changed the history of aerial warfare. As the world's first operational jet fighter bomber, it introduced cutting-edge technology that was far ahead of its time. Developed by Nazi Germany during World War II, the Me 262 was designed to dominate the skies with unmatched speed and firepower. But despite its advancements, the Me 262 was plagued by challenges, from technical issues to strategic miscalculations. This is the story of the Me 262, the jet fighter that could have altered the course of history. The impact of the Me 262 on aviation cannot be overstated. It was a testament to German engineering capabilities and wartime innovation. The aircraft had the potential to change air combat forever, introducing jet propulsion when most of the world was still relying on piston-driven aircraft. However, due to various constraints, including political interference, logistical challenges, and limited resources, the Me 262 never reached its full potential in combat. Nevertheless, its legacy paved the way for the future of aerial warfare and jet technology in the decades to follow. The concept of a jet-powered aircraft had been in development long before World War II. The first successful jet engine designs emerged in the 1930s, with German engineers leading the charge. By 1939, Messerschmitt began developing a prototype for what would become the Me 262. The aircraft was initially powered by a conventional piston engine to test its airframe, but in 1942, it took its first flight using turbojet engines. During the early development phase, engineers faced immense challenges. The shift from piston engines to jet propulsion required a complete rethinking of aerodynamics, fuel efficiency, and structural integrity. The aerodynamics of the aircraft had to be refined multiple times to ensure it could handle the speeds it was designed for. The engine placement and heat dissipation were also critical concerns that needed innovative solutions. The Me 262's ultimate success was a product of years of trial and error, as well as relentless commitment by German engineers who believed in the power of jet propulsion. Despite its promising design, the Me 262 faced numerous obstacles. Engine reliability. The Junkers Jumo 004 turbojet engines were groundbreaking but prone to frequent failures due to material shortages and technological limitations. Hitler's interference. Adolf Hitler insisted that the Me 262 be modified into a bomber, delaying its introduction as a fighter. Fuel shortages. By the time the Me 262 was ready for deployment, Germany was already suffering from severe fuel shortages. Pilot training. Transitioning from propeller-driven aircraft to jets required extensive training, but the Luftwaffe lacked experienced pilots by the late war years. Adding to these challenges was the sheer novelty of jet propulsion in combat. Unlike traditional propeller aircraft, jet planes operated under different principles, requiring pilots to adapt to new flight dynamics, acceleration patterns, and landing techniques. Training new pilots to handle these differences was a time-consuming process that further delayed the Me 262's effectiveness in battle. Furthermore, German industry struggled to produce the high-quality metals needed for jet engine construction, leading to engines that wore out quickly, often within just a few dozen flight hours. The Me 262 was significantly faster than any Allied fighter of its time. Powered by two Junkers Jumo 004B turbojet engines, it could reach speeds of 870 km/h, 540 miles per hour, outpacing the P-51 Mustang and Spitfire by a wide margin. Speed was one of the aircraft's greatest advantages, at a time when most aircraft struggled to exceed 650 km/h. The Me-262's turbojet propulsion enabled it to conduct quick hit-and-run attacks on enemy bombers and evade pursuing fighters with ease. This speed advantage made it difficult for Allied pilots to engage the Me-262 in direct combat, forcing them to develop new tactics to counter its effectiveness. However, high speed also came with drawbacks. The aircraft had longer takeoff and landing distances, and if a pilot misjudged an approach, it could lead to catastrophic crashes. 4 30mm Mk108 cannons, capable of destroying bombers with just a few hits. R-4M air-to-air rockets, adding to its destructive power against enemy formations. Bomb-carrying capabilities, when used as a fighter-bomber variant, Me-262A2 a Sturmvogel. The Mk108 cannons, while powerful, had a slower rate of fire and required precise aiming to be effective. However, when used correctly, they could devastate enemy aircraft, particularly large bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress. The introduction of R-4M rockets allowed Me-262 pilots to attack formations from a distance, reducing their vulnerability to return fire. This innovation influenced future aircraft designs, leading to the widespread adoption of air-to-air missiles in later decades. Despite its superior speed and firepower, the Me-262 had critical weaknesses. Short engine lifespan. Jet engine technology was still in its infancy, and the Jumo 004 engines often failed after only 25 to 50 hours of operation. Vulnerability during takeoff and landing. Allied pilots quickly learned to attack the Me-262 when it was slow and vulnerable on the runway. Production difficulties. Due to Allied bombing raids on German factories, fewer than 1,400 Me-262s were built, and only about 300 saw combat. Additionally, while the aircraft excelled at high-speed engagements, it was less effective in low-speed dogfights. Unlike the agile Spitfire or Mustang, the Me-262 required well-planned hit-and-run attacks, meaning that inexperienced pilots often struggle to maximize its capabilities in aerial combat. This limitation, combined with its mechanical issues, prevented the Me-262 from becoming a dominant force in the skies. The Me-262 sought its first combat in mid-1944. It was initially used to intercept Allied bombers, such as the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator. The results were impressive. Me-262 pilots could shoot down bombers before their escorts had time to react. However, despite its initial success, the limited number of operational Me-262s meant that they were unable to significantly alter the course of the air war over Europe. Allied numerical superiority ensured that for every Me-262 in the skies, there were dozens of enemy aircraft to counter it. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was a technological marvel that arrived too late to change the outcome of World War II. With its unmatched speed, devastating firepower, and influence on modern aviation, it remains one of the most fascinating aircraft ever built. If Germany had introduced the Me-262 earlier, and in greater numbers, history might have taken a different path. What do you think? Could the Me-262 have changed the course of the war if it had been deployed earlier? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible aviation history content.